Fantasy is one of the oldest quintessential genres in all of fiction, taking many different forms across time to show many different ideas. Some of the popular interpretations are obviously Lord of the Rings, Narnia, Harry Potter, and Game of Thrones, with all of them getting some sort of movie or show or something like that. But to me, standing above them all is a series that has some of the best parts from all the aforementioned, The Witcher. A dark fantasy story that takes place on the continent, a land full of magic, monsters, and politics, mostly following Geralt of Rivia, a man transformed into a monster-hunting superhuman called a Witcher, or Hexer if you're Polish. The narrative changes shape quite often, but mostly details the conflict between the land of Nilfgaard and the Northern Kingdoms, as well as an elven prophecy that could bring the entire world crumbling down around them. It's a massive world, spanning 9 books and 3 games with a 4th on the way, and while I've only consumed about some of that, I've fallen in love with it over the past few years, with the 3rd game, Wild Hunt, and its DLCs being in my top 5 games of all time without question. But what I have consumed all of is Netflix's Witcher franchise, 2 shows and 2 anime movies that sparked enough violence to put the sacking of Kaer Morhen to shame. While this isn't the first fantasy series to be contorted by the Hollywood streaming platforms of doom, The Witcher stands out because of how much went wrong behind the scenes, and how that bled into the series itself. And this wasn't a case of the author not finishing his series in time, but instead the poor choices and disrespect from both the showrunners and Netflix, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. In a similar way to my Guardians of the Galaxy video, I'm going through every slice of this mutated monster hunting pie and discussing my thoughts and how this franchise fell flat, with this video covering the live action shows. And as much as I'd like to enlist someone like Neon Knight, Witcher George, or Exlatalis to do this with me, I don't really know how to contact them, so for now, I'll suffer the wrath of Netflix alone.
Maybe we need a Witcher to look into it.
In 2019, Season 1 of The Witcher was released on Netflix to decent reviews. Across 8 episodes, the show covers short stories from The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny and the First Northern War. Said short stories are how we're introduced to Geralt and his supporting cast, or that's what I would say if the supporting cast didn't also become main characters, which is a problem that plagues the entire series. See, The Witcher doesn't really follow a group, it's really just about Geralt, and then Cirilla when she shows up. The show does make them the focal point, and I'm not saying side characters shouldn't be fleshed out, I think that's a great idea for a TV series, but they should stay as that. Side characters, and not get more screen time than the guy the entire franchise is named after, and actively make the story worse. The writers even create new ones that accentuate this problem, but I'll talk more about that later when it starts to get really annoying. Also, for having a pretty high TV budget, there's a lot of either effects or designs in the world that look bad. Despite these issues though, I would still consider Season 1 to be pretty good, if flawed. Like I said, it's made up mostly of short stories from The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny, while also adding stuff like Yennefer's backstory becoming a sorceress, Ciri's journey to meeting Geralt, and the political turmoil that ends with the Battle of Sodden Hill in the finale. Of the 8 episodes, I'd say the best were 1, 2, 3, and 6, and I'll go through them individually. 1, The End's Beginning, is an adaptation of The Lesser Evil, which explores Geralt's moral compass and the backstory behind his nickname, the Butcher of Blaviken, which is where it takes place. It starts with Geralt killing a giant spider-looking thing, and then he's hired by a mage named Stregobor to kill someone named Renfri, who suffers from a curse that will apparently put everyone in Blaviken at risk. The first few scenes are great. Lars Mikkelsen especially fits into the role of Stregobor very well, and Cavill lands Geralt's monologue perfectly.
But now, if I have to choose between one evil and another, then I prefer not to choose at all.
A key part of Geralt's character is his empathy towards monsters, especially ones that are intelligent or cursed. He only kills if he absolutely has to, and it's a really nice reminder of his humanity despite his emotions being repressed by his mutations. When he eventually meets Renfri, they have strong chemistry that makes you sympathetic for her explanation of the curse and what it's done to her life. Then towards the end, Renfri and her band of henchmen march on Stregobor's tower, and there's an awesome choreographed fight scene as Geralt wipes the floor with them. And when Renfri finally shows up, they revisit the lesser evil idea of killing her instead of letting the curse hurt innocent people. Regardless of what he wanted to do, the White Wolf is forced to kill her, dying in his arms, which obviously hits pretty hard. And as if it couldn't get worse, the real villain of the story, Stregobor, finally comes out of his tower and paints Geralt as the villain in front of the entire town, and he's casted out like the monsters they hire him to kill. It's a classic commentary on people being worse than monsters, which makes perfect sense from Geralt's perspective. It's one of the best episodes of the entire show, really. Moving on to episode 2, 4 Marks adapts The Edge of the World from The Last Wish, where Geralt is hired to hunt a devil, and also where he finally meets his best friend and my favorite character, a bard named Dandelion.
Dandelion!
'Tis I!
The first thing the show does, however, is change Dandelion's name to Jaskier, which means buttercup in Polish, the original language the Witcher universe was written in by Andrzej Sapkowski. Unfortunately, their friendship seems a lot more one-sided in the first season, but they still have some moments.
He was kicked in the balls by an ox as a child.
What? That's true.
As the two go on the hunt, they're attacked by the alleged devil, who turns out to actually be a Sylvan.
I am Torque, the Sylvan, a rare and intelligent creature!
You're a dick. With balls.
Balls I got from humans!
The scene is completely tone-deaf with the rest of the episode, but it's funny enough that I don't care.
Did your mother a snowman?
The two are then captured by runaway elves, who are being chased into hiding. A big part of The Witcher's world is that elves were native to the Earth before the conjunction of the spheres, which is what brought humans there, and elven discrimination has grown increasingly volatile ever since. This particular group is led by Filavandrel, who Geralt appeals to since they both have experienced prejudice from humans.
I have learned to live with them. So that I may live.
Phil does let the two go in the end, even giving Dandelion a new lute after one of the elves broke his, and it's a good story that establishes a key character and some world building that will become important as the series goes on. 4 Marks is also responsible for an absolutely amazing original song for a TV show, and I think some of you might know it.
Toss a coin to your witcher, O Valley of Plenty.
The song is fantastic and very catchy. I listen to it all the time. Episode 3, Betrayer Moon, is interesting because it's based on the very first story Sapkowski ever wrote in this world, The Witcher, where Geralt is hired by King Foltest of Temeria to defeat a monster called Astriga. It's the same one from the opening cutscene of the first game, actually. The show adapts it pretty faithfully, but changes a few details and also introduces us to Triss Marigold, another key character from the books and games. There's a cool fight with imagery from the game, and overall it's a pretty cool piece. Episode 6, Rare Species, is my personal favorite, because it adapts the Bounds of Reason from Sword of Destiny. It begins with Geralt and Dandelion up to their normal activities, but then they're approached by a man named Bork to join a dragon hunting party consisting of them, 2 Zerrikanians named Taya and Vea, some dwarves, a group of mercenaries called the Reavers, a knight, and finally, Yennefer, who Geralt is on shaky ground with at the moment. It's an ensemble journey through the mountains with these different characters who all have their own reasons to hunt and kill the dragon. I won't spoil either version because of how much I like it, but there's some cool action and funny jokes in both. Like I said earlier, there's also a B and C plot of every episode about Yennefer and Ciri, but all of it's made up stuff that wasn't in the books, and some of it does show promise, but most of it's really dumb and shouldn't really be here. But anyways, the other episodes have some good moments, but still feel like first drafts of what could have been, and the series ends with a lot of important stuff skipped over in favor of forgettable side characters, but again, I'll talk about that later. Though it does help that the acting is pretty good across the board here. Freya Allan makes for a good Ciri, Miana Buring is perfect for Tisea, and funny enough, she also voices Duchess Henrietta in The Witcher 3, which is pretty cool.
Not enough fragrance in Tucson to take the stench off that nepotism.
I like Anya Shalatra as Yennefer. I know she's gotten a lot of flack for her performance, and could there have been a better choice? Yeah, probably, but I think she does her best with what the writers gave her. Tom Canton is surprisingly great as Filavandrel, not discrediting his skills, I just wasn't expecting how much emotional range he had. As stated earlier, Lars Mikkelsen is delightfully evil as Stregobor, Joey Beatty as Dandelion is amazing, he acts just like I envisioned him in the books, and his songs are usually great.
Come here.
But the main star of this series is obviously Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia. A while back I made a video about Henry, and while there was a lot of faulty information and bad takes, everything I said about The Witcher still stands. Cavill is a huge fan of both the books and games and put his heart and soul into his performance, and it shows. Even in its worst moments, he's the shining light in the dark. The music in this series is also great, similar to the game soundtracks, with the obvious standout being Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. Overall, Season 1 was a decent start to the saga. There were some dumb decisions and questionable effects, sure, but there was also a lot of good stuff. I mean, this is only the beginning. Maybe the show will find more of its footing as it goes on, right? Mediocre! Well, In winter of 2021, The Witcher Season 2 was released, and was supposed to adapt the first book of the main saga, Blood of Elves, but not only did the show skip over a lot of important character moments from the previous books to make this work, they also just made up their own fanfiction to fill it up. See, in the books, Geralt and Ciri are supposed to spend a lot of time together in the Brokilon Forest. He promised to look after her and protect her, especially since she's a descendant of a very powerful elf named Lara Doran, meaning she has near limitless magical potential and lots of people in high places are looking for her. But the show changed that to them just meeting in the last shot of the last episode of Season 1. That, mixed with a bunch of other changes, creates a final product that resembles the book in extremely surface-level ways. Either way, Geralt takes Ciri up to Kaer Morhen for the winter. Kaer Morhen is one of the 3 Witcher schools from the books, with this one being the School of the Wolf. When they get there are only 4 Witchers left: Eskel and Lambert, who trained alongside Geralt as kids, Cohen, who's from the School of the Griffin, and Vesemir, the oldest living Witcher and mentor to the others. The reason there's so few of them left is because of an actual event called the Sacking of Kaer Morhen, where most Witchers and the mages that created them were killed, meaning no more Witchers could be made. But in the show, there's like 20 other random dudes staying there, even though in the prequel movie, Vesemir and the 4 boys were the only survivors. So... plenty of other weird stuff happens too. Eskel somehow turns into Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors, and Geralt has to kill him. Vesemir then finds out about Ciri having elder blood and tries to inject her with potions to turn her into a Witcher, a process that kills more people than it enhances. And don't even get me started on Yennefer's story. At the end of Season 1, she uses illegal magic to kill the Nilfgaardian army. Now that she's lost her magic, somehow, she bounces around getting kidnapped or chased by Nilfgaardians, northern soldiers, mages, and angry homeless elves. Hey look, it's Filavandrel. Eventually, she even tries to sacrifice Ciri to a demon to get her magic back. The demon then possesses her and starts to open a portal to another dimension with her powers, so all the heroes have to band together to save her. Vesemir shanks her like he's the Punisher, and the demon thing eventually opens the portal and leaves Ciri's body to join the Wild Hunt. Yeah, those guys, they just happen to be there.
Child of the Elder Blood.
If none of what I said made sense, that's because it doesn't. I didn't even mention key parts from the books that were kind of there, like the introduction of Rience, or Amir, or Ciri training in the temple in Elander, or the made-up show plot where mutated monsters from other worlds are coming into the continent, or the fact that people are traveling across entire countries in the span of a few minutes. All of this isn't even to mention the side character problem, which I will finally talk about. We spend so much time on side characters that really don't need to be here. A Nilfgaard mage who hates Yennefer, and especially Cahir, a Nilfgaard soldier, might as well be the main characters with how often they're shown. The point of Cahir is that he's a normal soldier, who wore helmets that made Ciri scared of him, but somehow that turned into him being this strange, conflicted killer. I wanted to give him a shot because later in the books he joins Geralt's party, but he just does not add anything with his screen time, and neither does Fringilla. There are some good things though. The first episode is a decent adaptation of yet another short story from The Last Wish called A Grain of Truth. It hits most of the emotional beats from that story, although to a slightly lesser extent, but I would still call it the best episode of the season just for what it's based on. Seeing Vesemir was also nice, even if the writing wasn't great. And Dandelion's new song this season, Burn Butcher Burn, was decent, but not as good as Toss a Coin. The song he sings in his prison cell was pretty funny, though.
Throw away the key, go yourself, you whoreson, 'cause you're through with me.
A scene in one of the last episodes that introduces us to Philippa Eilhart and Sigismund Dijkstra, who are very important for the next book/season, and both actors are very good, especially Graham McTavish as Dijkstra, who's one of my favorite actors in the series. And finally, Henry Cavill is once again great as Geralt, and you can really tell he's trying his best to make this writing work. The scene with Roach's death was something he forced the showrunners to include, and it retroactively brings in book materials that the show did away with at the beginning. Segment has been a bit all over the place, but really that's how this season played out, not just as an adaptation of the book, but also as a story in general. I wasn't as knowledgeable about the books when I first watched this season, but with the years after that, on top of the research for this video, the flaws really begin to make themselves apparent. I just don't know how to explain the feeling of watching one of my favorite characters shank his surrogate granddaughter with a knife. This is a messy piece of television, but there's more to review yet, as we head into Christmas of 2022.
Ugly! Ugly! Ugly!
No, I'm not reviewing this. I'm drawing a line. It's Netflix's lowest rated series in history, and I don't even want to talk about Eridan. Season 3 has to be better than this.
It insists upon itself, Lois. What?
I really should have kept my mouth shut. The Witcher Season 3 from summer 2023 is not good. It is bad.
I'm gonna f you up.
Basically, this season is supposed to be events from the fourth book, A Time of Contempt, a piece of the story that is very politically important, as it's where the coup on Thanedd Isle happens, the Second Northern War starts, and the main trio separates for most of the remaining books. But the problem is, there isn't much space for these events to happen because all of the build-up and character relationships from the last book were skipped or done in reverse. The first episode alone here is dedicated to undoing everyone's dumb decisions from Season 2 as a last desperate attempt to make this trio work before they separate, and it still isn't very convincing, though the performances are still good. Speaking of, though, I have to address the elephant in the room, Henry Cavill's departure from the show following this season. Do I blame him for leaving? No, not at all. He originally joined on the condition that the showrunners pay respect to the books, and they've done nothing but stomp on them for the past 4 years. I'm glad he's moving on to greener pastures. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare was a great movie.
It's very good.
But him leaving here is a huge problem for the story moving forward, because, like I said, it'll be a while before the others see Geralt again, and when they do, he's gonna look like Liam Hemsworth. Because yes, Liam is stepping in to replace Cavill for the last 2 seasons. I don't know how Netflix plans to fit 3 long, important books into 2 seasons, but that's a separate beast from a different contract, so we're not gonna talk about it. Anyways, we still have the army of forgettable side characters. Thankfully, Frangilla's role has been diminished significantly, but to equal it out, we have more amazing original characters like Dara from Season 1 and Gallatin, who Cahir is apparently friends with, and kills. But hey, we also have Philippa and Dijkstra working as spies for Redania, currently ruled by King Vizimir, and Radovid, his brother, is there too. In the books, Radovid is the youngest son of King Vizimir, but I guess he's an adult now, and... oh. Think of Priscilla, Dandelion. Anyways, Geralt once again separates from the other 2 to try and find Rience, the evil mage I barely mentioned from Season 2, and Ciri runs away from Yennefer when she's treated to a Marvel cameo by the Wild Hunt, before Geralt basically teleports there and scares off the entire squad of them with one blast of the Yard sign. It's at this point that everyone in the story is coming together for a meeting at Aretuza, the mage's castle, for a ball, so Geralt and Yen leave their surrogate daughter in the woods and go on a date. The actual episode dedicated to the ball is cool in concept, but really obnoxious in execution. Basically, the good guys all know there's a traitor somewhere in the ball, who plans to take Ciri and sell it the north to Nilfgaard, and most of them assume that the traitor is Old Man Stregobor, who, for reference, has been nothing but racist towards elves and a jerk to everyone else. And the perspectives keep switching back and forth to see who's doing what and where their loyalties are. Now take that, and don't switch the perspectives in any sort of interesting way, and have this annoying red herring song play the entire time.
All is not as it seems.
Regardless, it's revealed that the actual traitor is another mage named Vilgefortz, but before anything can be done about it, Bonnie and Clyde show up and take everyone hostage. Then Dijkstra proceeds to tell Geralt that he's gonna kidnap Ciri, runs away, and then tries to attack him with a knife, where this happens.
You can't blame a man for trying.
Just saying, Dijkstra is to this show what Varys is to Game of Thrones. He's always planning ahead, spying, and being creative because he's a normal guy keeping up with kings and mages who are way stronger than he is. So why throw that away and try to sneak attack a Witcher who he just ticked off? It shouldn't matter if he's unarmed. After that travesty, Vilgefortz lets in some Nilfgaardians and more of the Squietel who are teamed up with them. And by the way, these are the elves who have been shown to be completely useless across all 3 seasons. So explain to me how they're able to use bows and arrows to massacre a group of the most powerful witches and wizards in the world. It's fine though, because before the good guys with names are about to be killed, Stregobor shows up and kills them all with illegal fire magic.
Go to hell, you f***ing mongrels!
And you know, I'm not even mad at this. After all the previous nonsense, seeing Lars Mikkelsen gleefully blast the elves away made me laugh. After this, Geralt takes Ciri to the beach and finds Vilgefortz waiting for them, and we get an actual good fight between the 2 ripped right out of the book. Ciri teleports to the desert and hangs out for a while, and Geralt gets his back broken, so Triss sends him to the Broccolon forest to be healed by a dryad named Milva. Whole bunch of other messy scenes that sort of set the stage for the rest of the story, one of which being Tessia's death from the book, and it is sad to see her go, especially because of how well acted she was. Once again, the fight between Geralt and Vilgefortz is very good. You can definitely feel the effort put into it, and the performances are also still great, especially from Cavill, Burring, and McTavish. But aside from those two things, there is barely anything good I can say about this season. Even Dandelion's song isn't great, so if that doesn't give it away. So, the series ends with Ciri joining the Lost Boys from Peter Pan, Yennefer creating the Lodge of Sorceresses instead of Philippa doing it in the books, and Geralt, Dandelion, and Milva beginning their quest to Nilfgaard to look for Ciri. That's it. That is supposed to be the status quo for the rest of the series effectively, and it's being led by characters we either don't know, don't like, or are just made up, which, at least to me, sounds like a recipe for disaster. Season 3 of The Witcher is a sad excuse of an adaptation and a poor story in its own right, and I'm very unsure how it will continue into Seasons 4 and 5.
You shut up!
From humble beginnings with good talent and source material, we've watched this series crash and burn like Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider. Poor planning, disrespect for the books, and way too much emphasis on the wrong characters resulted in a shallow version of something that could have been great. And now Cavill is gone, and with him, a lot of this show's fans, which is really sad. And if you can believe it, we still aren't done. We still have the anime to talk about, and lucky for you, that script is already done, so thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it entertaining and at least a little informative. Give me some time, I'll be back, and we can finish off Netflix's worst idea. Until the electric state, that is.
Tell me why it ain't nothing but a holiday. Tell me why it ain't nothing but a mistake. Tell me why I never wanna hear you say I want it that way.